may not have time to go back and reread every document, or jotting down ideas that come to mind as you read each one. If it's a document about, it's a speech by George Washington, write down what you know about George Washington. If it gives you a date, what do you know that's going on with that date? What's going on just in world history, something, in order to put things in context. Start writing your thesis statement. A lot of you have gotten into this habit, and I will encourage you to do that. When you're planning, go ahead and start figuring out what your thesis will be before you even put it on the actual paper. You will not have time, like in tax, to do a rough draft fully and then go straight to your paper. You won't have time for that. You need to plan it out, make your little outline, your little bubble chart, your charts, whatever. I always at least wrote my thesis statement before I went to my essay, because then I could kind of take it and tweak it without messing up my pretty paper and having to erase and draw lines all the time. Because I used an erasable pen, which was not a good idea after it started smudging. But one thing that a lot of people at other schools have started doing is a yes-but chart, in which you if we're looking at our documents and it is in favor of the prompt or of your thesis statement, so if my thesis is about FDR being an effective president, maybe document A is a yes, document B is more of a no, and then maybe I put why. Maybe document B compares him to Hitler. Or, then document C talks about court packing. Him trying to pack the Supreme Court with justices. So, doing this. Some are doing that, some don't. So that may work for you, because some of you are still having issues organizing documents. Number 2, 40 to 45 minutes to write your essay. I always try to be done within 35, and then 40 if possible, and then going back and looking over, making sure there's no major factual errors, there's no major grammar errors, anything that I could fix real quick, just to kind of make sure there's no major boo-boos just out there for all the world to see, because I don't know who's grading my essay. Elements of a good DBQ. A, refers to documents by citing relevant information in the text of the essay. This right here is one way you can use it. Maybe I'm trying to prove something. FDR's speech to the 1936 Democratic Convention demonstrates his belief in blah, blah, blah. Then you're not summarizing. That's just a little bit more analytical. You need to analyze the documents. You need to include outside information, that's stuff not in the documents at all, just stuff that you should know that would go with it. Don't quote long passages. I've told you 3 to 5 word phrases maximum in your documents. They will know those documents backwards and forwards. They will know them better than you, and you do not need to quote long passages at all. They know them. You can refer to them, and they should know, if you do it properly, what you're referring to. And then don't do a laundry list description of the documents. Document A says this. Document B says this. G is like A and says, we don't want a laundry list. No. So, questions about the DBQ? Standard essays. You will have 2 options for each one. So part A is your DBQ. Part B, you will have number 1 or number 2. You need to pick the one that you know best. Don't pick the one that you don't know anything about, because you're not going to score as well, because you will be able to include details. And then part C will have number 3, number 4. Pick one. You cannot do number 1 and number 2 and not do 3, 4. You have to do 1 or 2 and then 3 or 4, because some people did that last year and don't. For planning for those, 5 to 10 minutes. Jot down all historical information that you can remember, and then form a thesis statement, and then start writing. Some things that my sister, who was here the week before spring break, I know some of you saw her, said one of the things she did when she was in AP US History is she tried to remember at least 3 major events, or something like that happened during a specific time period. So like 3 major events from stuff leading up to World War I, 3 major events leading up to the Civil War. Can you what? Yes. I was like, you can speak. Because then at least I gave her 3 things, 3 cultural things that were important in the 20s, 3 inventions from the industrial era, something. Because then she could remember 3, and then maybe that would spark her memory with some of the others, which is why I've made y'all do presentations, because if you do them right, you should know yours well, and that'll give you one, maybe how it relates to the others. She says any major war or things leading to a war, always try to remember causes and effects, not necessarily always what's going on during the war, because then you can include those as well, because they like to ask that more than what happened on this battle. They don't care how many people died as much as the effect. So that's a tip from her, who is a lot younger. Questions? I included the rubric that I've used for y'all all year for your essays. What do you need to aim for? Low, medium, or high? Medium. Medium. Look at those things. It's an acceptable thesis. I'm not asking for an 8 or a 9 well-developed thesis that addresses the question. I'm just looking for one that's acceptable. Some specific and relevant outside information. If you look at 8 and 9, they say you need to have a considerable amount of information to support the thesis. Medium, effective analysis of some of the documents. For the regular essay, I'll say effective analysis of the topic, or some analysis of the topic. And then 8 or 9, it says difference is you need to be able to do that to more of the documents, to a substantial amount. And then no major factual errors. If it's a major factual error and it takes away from your essay, then that's a problem. If it's just a minor one, then they will overlook it. So try to avoid like I said, the major issues where you're telling me George Washington was the head of the Supreme Court. That's a major factual error, so that doesn't work, So, yeah. Any questions about writing before we move on, please? All right, turn to page 6. Let's talk dates. All right. This is where you will start filling in info with whatever. It's up to you how you fill it in. It's yours. I don't care. There's a historian, Arthur Schlesinger. He believes the U.S. enters a period of public action and political reform approximately every 30 years. The beginning of each period is listed below. So, he says the U.S. goes through 30-year cycles of reform. 1800, Thomas Jefferson becomes president, and we get the Jeffersonian democracy, Jeffersonian era.
That begins it, unfortunately.
Pardon?
That begins it, unfortunately.
Uh-huh. 1828 is when Jackson first becomes president. He is reelected in 1832, but he first becomes president in 28. And that enters Jacksonian era, or Jacksonian democracy. They do like to compare Jefferson and Jackson from time to time. What's the question? 1800 Jeffersonian democracy, 1828 Jacksonian democracy.
How are they different?
Jefferson is a little bit gentler than Jackson. We kind of talked into detail about Jackson and how harsh he is at times. You either love him or you hate him.
Oh, like the whole trail theory thing?
Destroying the bank, everything like that. Jefferson is more concerned with the constitutionality of things. That's why he has that whole internal battle over the purchase of Louisiana Purchase. He's like, can I really do this or not? Yeah. 1860, Abraham Lincoln becomes president. That's the whole Civil War Reconstruction thing that you were familiar with. 1901, Teddy Roosevelt becomes president because McKinley dies. He is reelected in 1904, not reelected, but elected all on his own. And that's the Progressive Era. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt becomes president. That enters in the New Deal. 1932. And then 1960, John F. Kennedy becomes president, and that is the Civil Rights Movement. So you can see approximately every 30 years we enter a new reform era. Presidents elected ending in the year 0. As a result of what some people call the cursive Tippecanoe, every president elected in a year ending in 0 from 1840 to 1960 died in office. We talked about that, right? William Henry Harrison defeated the natives in the War of 1812. Supposedly they cast a curse. His nickname was Tippecanoe, Battle of Tippecanoe. So, if we backtrack from that, Thomas Jefferson is elected in 1800. James Monroe is re-elected in 1820. William Henry Harrison is elected in 1840. He dies from pneumonia. Abraham Lincoln, 1860, he's assassinated. James Garfield, 1880, same thing. William McKinley, 1900, same thing. Warren Harding, 1920. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is elected in 1940. That's actually his third term. He will pass away